this morning. Thank you, Carmen. I'm just going to pull up my notes again, pardon me, which are those of the Matagami and Matachwan First Nations being in the Treaty 9 territory. It's important that as leaders in our community, we commit to principles of economic reconciliation. Under the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada calls to action number 92, it states the corporate sector in Canada to adopt the United Nations Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous Peoples as a reconciliation framework and to apply its principles, norms, and standards to corporate policy and core operational activities involving Indigenous peoples and the lands and resources. As leaders across the region today, I would encourage you to read the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's calls to action and particularly focus on number 92 as to how we can be better partners in the path to reconciliation together. I would ask that if you have a question that you'd like to be submitted, you can put that in the chat box that you see at the bottom of your screen. Please note that we will do our best to answer your questions, but I certainly know that Lola and Tanya will be very keen to answer them as we go along as well. As regional business organizations and the support organizations that serve them begin to harness financial recovery, the Chamber has relaunched a program called Reimagine Resiliency, a series to ensure our business can navigate any storm. This virtual series is provided free of charge as a result of the support of our many pillar sponsors to any business in Northern Ontario throughout the 32 Northern Chambers of Commerce network. Today, I would like to invite Roxane Daou, who is the Executive Director of the Venture Center and one of today's proud pillar sponsors, to bring a few words of welcome on behalf of her organization. Je vous donne la parole, Roxane. Merci.
Thank you, Cameron. So again, I'm Roxane Daou. I'm the Executive Director of the Venture Center, which is the Community Futures Development Corporation located in Timmins. And what we do is we support local entrepreneurs in the many phases of their business, whether it be the startup, maintenance, expansion, and we provide access to funding. So it's high-risk loans that we will provide from as small as $500, and we could go up to $750,000. So we will support things like equipment, leasehold improvements, working capital, et cetera, et cetera. So if you have any needs for some financing, I will add my information in the chat. As well as I just wanted to say this workshop, we really look forward to having this workshop. It is so critical as a lender that all of the entrepreneurs that we deal with have some good books. So this is perfect timing, and I hope that you guys enjoy, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Roxane. And I do want to extend a special thank you to the Business Enterprise Center and the Venture Center for their support of this financial literacy pillar. This is the second time we have the great pleasure of working with Tanya and Lola from MNP, and we're very excited to get into our second iteration of QuickBooks Online. So Lola Turner, pardon me, is the Senior Technician for MNP, and Tanya Klutze is Accounting Technician as well. So without further ado, we're just going to jump right into it. And Tanya and Lola, I'll pass the floor to you.
Thank you. Perfect. Thank you very much. Okay. So I'm hoping you're seeing the screen. Cameron, can you confirm that we have the screen up for you?
I don't see it quite yet.
Okay, that didn't work. Let's try again. Sorry, I am not technically savvy, unfortunately.
Just quick one.
Back here. Back here. Yeah, I'll share my screen. Okay, so let's try again.
Sorry about this, guys.
Oh, that's quite fine. Are you able to share it at the bottom of your screen? There we go. I see something happening.
There we go. That looks more like it.
Now you're good. Perfect.
Okay, so this is a QuickBooks Online training. It's basic knowledge for how to navigate through QuickBooks for newer users. We're going to cover a number of topics, quite a few topics actually today, and not all of them will be as in depth, I'm sure, as you would like, but then we could do more training or personalized training on an individual basis, should there be need. I'd like to introduce my partner in crime today, Tanya Klutze. She'll be monitoring all of the questions in the chat. Yes. and be directing me with regards to how many the questions when we are on the different modules that we can incorporate. And we will also have a question session at the end. So anybody that wants to put questions in the chat, that would be fantastic, and we'll address as many as we can. My background is bookkeeping in a number of different software, desktop, QBO Online, and Sage. Tanya is also a pro advisor as well, and desktop and on QBO Online. We both have a number of years of experience, and we hope that you enjoy the presentation today. So we're going to start the presentation up with welcoming you to QuickBooks Online if you're a subscriber. And we will be using not only the slide presentation, but also the sample company today to navigate through a number of different slides. So this is what we're hoping to cover today. We're going to jump into the scariest topic first. We're going to go through an HST and an HST setup for managing taxes. We're going to spend some time on bank feed on a number of topics. So your bank feed, your linking of your bank accounts with your bank, feed added versus matching, which we will show you once we get into the sample company, banking rules, which can help direct transactions that are not that are always the same.
Bank charges.
And then your deposits versus your received payments, expenses versus bills, which are options depending on what kind of user you were, and whether or not you need an AP and an AR, an accounts payable and accounts receivable, sorry. Recurring entries, budgets and reports, projects versus tags versus classes, which might be important to some industries. Payroll setup, which we will be using slide pack 4 because unfortunately the sample company does not allow us to go into payroll module, and then bank reconciliations. And then we're going to wrap up. So the first thing when you open QBO and you've done your login is you get to the navigation bar or the overview or dashboard view. So from your dashboard view, you're looking at all of your possible transactions in your different modules. Now, this is the one on the left is the older version. The one that is in the center has become the newer version of your navigation bar. It has the same modules in it, it's just the access to them has changed. So where these are, the one on the left is a little bit more open. The one in the middle is a little bit more closed, and you have to access your business overview to get your cash flows, your reports, and your planners. And then you have to access your get paid to get to your customers' invoices and products. Whereas you're on the left-hand side, your expenses and your sales used to get you to that place. Pay is your suppliers. And then you have your bookkeeping, which opens up your accounting tab equal to your accounting tab on the left and your transaction tab on the left. So depending on how recent your subscription is, depends on how your navigation bar will look. And now we jump right into HST. So your HST module is in your tax module. What it does is it collects all your HST either from your expenses or from your sales, and will post it into your HST payable account. There is one other way that HST gets posted into this report, and that's through General Journal. And in that one, it is very important. First tip. 2, make sure that you're actually putting something in the sales tax code if you are putting HST in a General Journal, because it will not be captured by the report.
Maybe make it look like maybe.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to share the sample company. And I'm hoping this works. Please let me know if you do not see the sample company.
I think you're good.
Okay, so HST is hidden here in taxes. Okay. Okay, so it likes to give us all this stuff when we're coming
When
in.
we first-
Okay, so based on how the setup is, whether you're quarterly, monthly, that'll be all in the original company setup, or it can be managed as well through tax management. But the HST that we want to talk about is for meals, and that is HST applicable, but only at 50%. So to be able to make your life a little bit easier, and this is another tip number 2, we go into add custom tax, and you can type this in as meals. Oh, too many caps. And this is something I collect on purchases, and percentage on the purchase would be 6.5%. It's a liability, and you want it to show as MITC, which is an input tax credit, which is what is collected when you make purchases. And then you would add, and now you have the meals. Now, what's nice about having this little extra calculation is when you have expenses, and I'm going to do it the fast way, maybe.
Okay.
So if we go in here for travel meals, and we say $25 is what we purchased, we can now use the 50% of the HST, and it calculates at the rate. Now, this is the one exception to HST, because the other HST is collected completely at 13%, but meals is the only exception for 6.5%, and all other things are exempt. So this is just a way to make your entering a lot easier for HST. For meals. And there's that. The other thing about HST that you need to know is once you've created a file, once you've filed an HST return, if you're doing this on your own, you do not want to reverse an HST. It is an option. They do give you the option to undo a filing. It's not recommended to do that on your own. The button is there, not recommended to ever click it, because what happens is it does not reverse your HST completely as expected. It is something that you have to go to the help menu for and contact QBO directly to have them reverse one. So those are some HST tricks to keep in mind. Filing of HST basically should be, once you prepare a report, and you're prepared, you pick your period, and when you're going to file it, your total balance should always reflect the same in the GL.
And your trial
And your trial balance, yes. So we're going to go back to our slides.
Lola, would you like to answer questions as we go through?
Sure. Are you getting some questions?
Yeah, I'm getting, is the 6.5 also applicable to nonprofit? Yes, it is.
Yes, it's cross-board. So it is a meals thing, not a travel thing. So hotels and gas and all that stuff for travel would be 13.5, 13%. It is only the meals that they give the, but they'll only give you half of the HST as an ITC. I know HST is usually a very scary topic, but that's why we jumped into it first. And now we're going to move on to our bank feeds and connecting our bank and add versus match. So our banking feed is when you do your original setup, your banking feed can be done through your transactions. And then there is a link account up top once you get into this banking portion. And that allows you to access your banking institution, in which you would be entering your login with however you normally log into your bank. So whether that would be with your client card number and your password. Some people, depending on which institution they're with, have a a user or portfolio name and a password. So however you would do your normal online banking, how you would proceed with your login information for your institution. And once you go into LinkedIn, and then again, unfortunately, it doesn't let us demonstrate this other than the fact that we know the steps. Once you're into your financial institution, then it's going to ask you which QuickBooks Online account you want to link your banking information to. So you would be going to your chart accounts, and you would pick the correct bank account that matches your QBO account, and connect those two. And then once the connection is complete, it should indicate that the link has been established and you're good to connect and close. This is important if you're, and we're noticing that any Scotiabank clients are having more issues with the linking of their bank accounts lately due to the two-step authorization that Scotiabank has put into place. It seems to disrupt the link more often than other institutions are right now. So unfortunately, if you're a Scotiabank client, you may get very good at connecting your bank account bank feed, because anytime there's a slight variation in their programming for their security, it disconnects from QBO. So the other thing to note, when you're doing your connection, you can establish the link to push the transactions into QBO from any point in time that you choose. So say you get disconnected on the 8th, you can reestablish your transactions from the 8th going forward. It'll also allow you to relink everything up to a year back. Now we're gonna move on.
I was just asked if we can switch audio. They're hearing me type.
We were having problems with the switching audio.
Yeah,
but
we're
we'll
having
give it a
trouble
try.
switching.
It's a very delicate balance, so we'll, if you don't mind, maybe we'll keep the audio as is, just in
Okay.
case. Unless you have a better solution.
Okay, no, we
We
don't
have no
really have a
solution.
better solution, but we don't want to feedback, unfortunately. We tried it earlier, and yeah, the computers would sing because we're in so close proximity to each other. So we're going to move on now to, matches versus adding. And although I have this information on the slide, I would really prefer to show that to you on the sample company. This is something that we know happens often to new users because they are unfamiliar with exactly how the bank feed works. So basically your banking feed is all the transactions that would appear on your statement from your banking institution. And all they do is they prepare it in a listing. And from this listing, it creates an awful lot of actions that say add. If you're putting information into your system on a regular basis, so I'm just going to do quickly. As quickly as I want.
You want to put it in expense?
Yeah, I have to match it. Say expense. I can't see them. Okay. So instead of wasting time, what I would do was, at the moment they all say add. If you have an entry in the system that says parking, $41, that might be easiest to do.
41 even.
And we're gonna go parking.
There's a travel there.
And
You just seen it really close, really quick.
So I'm hoping,
Just hoping. Is it same?
because my date's probably. Sorry? That was. So, that's
Usually it would actually show it with the actual match. It
I'm gonna
might
refresh the
not,
screen just to see if it's gonna pick it up.
might because of the sample company too.
Yeah. Okay, so normally what happens with QBO is this goes looking through the information that you've entered. So a bill, sales, a deposit, any kind of transaction that you've entered, and it looks to match the date with the amount. This is why clicking add can be dangerous, because it doesn't think past that point. It doesn't think whether or not the description to a certain vendor or customer will match, and it does not know where to put any of the transactions. It will learn.
It guesses though.
But it does guess. So if you have $41 in one place and $41 in the next, in a different, for a different purpose in a different account, it may pick the wrong one. So going across here and adding is not always the best means of clearing this list. Checking to see if there's matches is always more recommended. And if we're lucky, it picks it up. And it's not. Okay, so it's not allowing us to use that function properly, unfortunately. But normally in a normal circumstance, after I've entered the $41, it should see it as a match and this should change to match. And then I can go in to the transaction, view the details, change anything I need to change. Assign it to any customer I need to assign it. And then I would be able to alter my HST if I need to. So in this case, if it was meals, I would be able to change it to the meals. Add HST. Or the other thing with regards to HST tips is if you don't want to see a very long report, out of scope is your friend versus 0 versus exempt. This removes it from the report because it's not it is non-HST bearing. And then you can add or match at this point. If you're very, very diligent at putting things into your system, always look for a match. On occasion, where you know that the entry is a one-off, especially when we use add, we're using it to do things like bank charges, that sort of thing. So we will use the add. Add, what that does is it creates an expense, or it'll create a deposit, depending on which side you're on. But if I were to go add, now this would create that same expense slip. It does not create a bill, it'll create an expense. So if you need things for your accounts payable and accounts receivable, add may not be what you want to do. You may want to make sure everything in this column says match. Hopefully they'll let us do that. The other thing that I want to mention before we move on to bank rules is when you're in here, anything that you have to look at is in the for review. Anything that you've dealt with will be in the categorized. Anything that you do not want to, on the rare occasion that they, for example, a split check. You paid a check. You made a payment out of your books in one lump sum, but you split it into 2 payments going through the bank statement. They won't match, but you may want to exclude them to use what you put in your books versus what you have on your bank feed. So in this case, you would select the items that you don't want on your bank feed to be able to use the data in your bookkeeping system instead, and you would click those and put them in the exclude column. Otherwise, they would stay on the feed as forever as not being handled. Okay, so banking rules. And that's up here. So banking rules are recommended for items that do not change.
Bank charges. Some bank charges don't change.
So you can name your rule, whether or not it's money in or money out. From all of your bank accounts or just specific ones. So you can choose that it's only from your checking account. So you can get this to itemize as detailed as you want. So whether it's a description, whether that's the bank text, an amount that they're expecting, if it's exact or something specific, you can also test the rule. This is where you categorize it. So this is where you tell the rule where you want the transaction placed in your chart of accounts. So if it's an expense, a check, credit card payment. So say you know that you're going to make an automatic payment on your credit card at $500 every month. You could set that up here so that that transaction will match up or be processed every month from your bank statement automatically, and it pushes it into your bank reconciliation for you. Now you can automate it so that it automatically does that for you, or you can have it so that there's your auto add. So yeah, if your auto add is automatically on, you will not see it in your bank. It pushes it automatically to your accounts, to your reconciliation. If you want to see it in your bank feed, And you don't want it to automatically match for you, but it'll create the match, but not push it to the accounts. To your reconciliation, you would turn this off. And then you would save. It also allows you to do tax options, payees. You can get as detailed to this as you want. The thing is that it will do exactly as you tell it to. So it will find everything with the name or the descriptor that you have and put the bankroll on it. So this is why consistency in the ones that you pick is important. And I believe the slide gives you everything that you need with regards to bankrols. So we're on to receiving payments versus deposits. Now, I'm going to go over here. Your new button is your friend, as well as your gear icon in the far side. That provides you a listing of everything. For this purpose, I prefer to be in new. So there's two schools of thought on this. If you are using your accounts receivable or your invoices for your sales, receiving payment is a good option to make sure that your accounts receivable is up to date. The thing is if you are a Sage user, then you become used to receiving payment and depositing. Unless you are using a clearing account of some kind or an undeposited funds account, receiving payment and doing deposits are both are not recommended. It would be one or the other. So to receive a payment on the sales, you would go into receive. There we go. You choose your client. And we're guessing because this is not our data, so we don't know where anything is.
We don't know the data.
Yeah, no.
It's giving us.
I
a
didn't
list.
pick a good one yet.
Maybe go in sales, see if there's anything on it.
Okay, so let's just pick. So I'm going to go to an old receive payment. So you would choose your customer, the date that the payment it is that you received the payment on, where you want this deposited. And in this case, it's going to be deposited directly into your bank account. So this is the use one or the other. Either you receive payment or do a deposit, because the deposit will allow you to choose invoices as well. We'll show that in a moment. You choose your invoice, and then you would say close.
Which evidently would create a match in the bank feed itself.
Yes, it would. Okay, so should I be doing a two-step process where I want to receive payment and I want to deposit? I would now be changing this deposit to undeposited funds. If I did not, I would be creating duplicates. So this is a very important step depending on which way you want to have your books run. Whether you want this to be deposited directly into your bank account because everything gets directly deposited as individual sums, or if you do a lump sum deposit where you gather a whole bunch of transactions and then make deposits. Undeposited funds would probably be a better option for you. So it's either a two-step process depending on how you make the deposits and how you want them to match with your bank fee. So if we're doing single amounts, straight matches into what our bank statement would look like, you would deposit that in directly into your checking account. Should you making be making multiples into one deposit, I would suggest using undeposited funds to deposit. I hope that's not confusing.
I had a question that I'm going to get you to give me a call afterwards. I'm not quite sure in what content you want to change or delete an invoice number. If you can call me, that's actually my direct line, and then we can discuss after the session. Thank you.
Okay, so we're gonna move. My mouse is not agreeing with me, sorry. He wants to stay on the other screen. So this would be your bank deposit. Once you pick a receive from, you can add these in as many as you need. You can add lines as well to make this as large as you need it. And then you would be choosing all of the information from the undeposited account, and then you would be receiving closing. Should you be not receiving payment, your invoices will show up here. You can click on your invoices as you need them, and then it will total your deposit for you. So depending on your system, whether you're using a clearing account or a holding account, would determine how you're going to be using these two modules. Once your deposit is made, if it is a lump sum deposit, it will match again against your bank fee. Move on again. So some of the users, I believe, are Sage users that have moved over to QBO. And Sage users are used to bills and bill payments, which are here as well. Okay, so your bills and your bill payments are going to be, if you're running a accounts payable. This is the more exact way to make sure that this happens. So you create your bills and then you will pay your bills. When you're using the add feature on the bank feed, it does not create a bill, it creates an expense. So it books it directly into, it does not book it into AP, it books it directly into the expense account. So please note the difference between this. This bill, when created, will book itself into the accounts payable. And then as you make payment, it will go against the accounts that you, the vendor that you purchased from, so that your AP stays current. So this is another thing that we wanted to go through, expenses versus bills and bill payments. Again, depending on how much detail you need and how your bookkeeping is run. Do you have more questions on that one?
Well, I have a question here. Do you have to type in each individual receipt again, or can you collect them from somewhere? I'm thinking that you're talking about the bank feed itself.
So we're talking about when we deposit all of the receipts. So if I were to actually put information in here with regards to receiving payment, and I put them into an undeposited fund, when I go to deposit those, it's going to show me from the undeposited funds, what amounts I have in there, and I can choose the appropriate ones to make the deposit that I want to have happen. So say you're making a deposit after the fact, and you know that you've got ABC, marked wholesale, pick any names you want. If I go ABC, MNP, a taxi company, and I know that those three were deposited. So I would be able to pick those three from the listing of my undeposited funds to create that deposit. I don't know if that helps.
Oh,
Unfortunately,
she said thank you.
okay. Unfortunately, the sample company, without putting in a bunch of data, it doesn't show everything we want it to show, but it shows it'll tell us how to navigate
That's
it.
definitely an overview of it.
And this is a lovely topic. Recurring entries. So recurring entries are accessed through the Gira account. The recurring entries are anything that you know on a regular basis happens. So you can set up a template for it. Some clients do it for sales, some do it for invoicing. Some have it for bills and loans that they know they pay on a regular basis. I have one client that has leases, and all of the lease payments are all set up as recurring transactions. So that there's, I'm going to show you an income one, and then I'm going to show you an expense one. And I'll show you how to set up one. So you go, once it's set up, you can go to the drop-down menu for app use. And basically all the information that you need is in there. So you would choose your customer, your billing address, what products you want, where this is going to be posted to, any other information that you need. If you're using classifications, you can add that here as well. You can change your invoice number if you need to. Your date is probably another item that you'll be changing as well. So these two fields, I presume, on a regular basis will be changing. Usually the amount is usually fixed. That's why they usually make them recurring, is the less amount of information you have to add in, the better. And then you would save and post. This one has the customer activation on. If you don't want to send stuff to your clients because you've just made an adjustment, click send later and save instead of save and send. It saves you sending out emails to clients for just minor alterations. Okay, so that one is an income one, so basically it looks like an invoice. Doesn't recognize. Okay.
Yeah.
And then this is an expense one. Same sort of thing. So it tells you this is a Citibank one, this is interest charges, this is notes payable. Your check number you would change, your date payment change, and then you would save and close. You can adjust the amounts if you need to. It just gives you a basic template so that you don't have to do a lot of the entering.
You can also schedule it. So there's different ways to schedule.
So this gives you the options of the number of different types of transactions that you can make. So I'm just going to choose an expense for right now for the demonstration. And I'm going to call this bank charges. And I want it scheduled I can set a reminder saying, hey, you haven't done this. And it will come up on your dashboard, or unscheduled, which means I have to manually come in here and use it. If I hit scheduled, it will automatically post for me on the date that I tell it I want it done. So in this instance, I want it to be scheduled. And how many days in advance do I want it done? I don't want it done in advance. Payee, I'm gonna see if there's bank in here somewhere. No. It helps if I spell properly. Okay. Bank of any city. And this is going to be from my checking account. And it's going to be monthly on the 31st of the month. Last day of the month. Because it's actually smart enough to know that we don't always have a 31st or 28th. I can set what month I want this. Now it has to be a month in advance, so I can't set November, it won't let me. So I'd actually have to set it up for December 1st. And payment method. So that's coming directly from my bank account. So I want this into my bank charges. I know that every month I'm paying $15 fee. There's no tax on that because banking charges is one of the lovely ones that do not have HST applicable, as well as insurance. As another tip, insurance is never has HST attached to it. If I need to put any other information, whether or not this is billable and chargeable to somebody else, which customer, which class I want to put it in, I can put all this information in now. And this will, by saying that I want this scheduled at the end of every month, this is going to post $15 to my bank charges coming out of my bank account. And I save this template. And now when I go to my templates, there's my bank. Now because I scheduled it, odds are that I come in and use it, not very often, but I may want to come in and actually edit it. Because the bank charges may go up to $16.50. And then I would be able to come down here, change it, save it, and go on. So this is a nice tool for items that you don't want to have to put a lot of entering into, but know that they are fairly consistent. Do we have a question?
Yeah, there's, what is an example of class when you describe,
We're gonna get there.
describing your expenses? We will definitely get there.
We're gonna get there. Classes, tags, and projects. It's coming, I promise. Okay, so we're gonna head into the next topic. And I believe not everybody's gonna use this. And I'm going to rely on Tanya a little bit more because I believe she has more experience in budgeting than I do. But it's through your gear icon and it is there, budgeting. Now, I'm going to use the one that's there, but you can add as many budgets as you need. So this one allows us two different options with regards to reporting. And also at this point, we can edit this. So if we go edit, it allows us to edit the information in our budget. So you enter whatever incomes and expenses, whatever lines and the amounts that you need into these different columns. And basically it mimics whatever you have in your chart of accounts. So this is a full chart of accounts listing, and it will basically give you all of the categories that you want. So this is how you start your budget.
And you can go monthly and yearly. I know that some of the nonprofits, I know that some of the nonprofits, the funding pods are actually in the middle of the year. What I've done with a couple of them is go from like let's say the funding pod is April to March 31st. We then set everything up for monthly for the year. But then January, February, March would go into the old budget. New budget starts March 31st, or April 1st. So the time frame might be a little bit different depending on your actual budgeting pod. Unfortunately, it doesn't allow you to go from specific dates.
The customization might fix that for you. Because you can customize your dates. It also shows you accounts versus months, accounts versus quarters, accounts versus totals. This is in your customization tab. You can get as much as you want from here to try to sort the information as best as you best that suits you. You also have, if you have 0 accounts and you don't want them to show, you can choose not to by activating here. Okay, your filters is where you get to do some of your a little bit more fancy work, because you can choose exactly which accounts show up in your budget by checking on this. Now this is good for people that have budgets and they have certain accounts that they want to show in a specific budget. More specifically for the government grant funds, we have different programs and they're all, so you don't want an entire listing of your chart of accounts. You only want the ones specific to that grant. So if they are actually separated in your chart of accounts, you would be able to pick up, just for example. So in this chart of accounts, if you had bank charges or let's do something a little bit different. If you have the office expenses that were for a community grant, or you had office expenses that belong to the office in general, but not a grant. When you create your chart of accounts and you could separate them out, and have just pick up the ones that you needed for this specific budget. It also gives the option to do general, grab everything, all accounts, all bank accounts. So your filter is where you get your detail for which specific budget you want. Your headers and your footers, however you want the top here section to look like. Now they give you options for your reports, and this one is your P&L, and you can do, oh, sorry, it went somewhere else. You can also do budget versus actual. And what it will do a comparison, what you presently have in your books versus what your budgeted amount is, and then over budget percentage. And again, you can, sorry, it has a mind of its own today. You can actually do some of the comparables up here. Anything you change, make sure you run report. If you really like that report the way you've set it up, please save it as customized. So that way you don't have to recreate it. I hope that's covered some of the budgeting questions. We'll go into some of the reports now. So if you notice that some of these are start, accounts receivable, balance sheet, profit and loss. Anything that you place a start beside will come up to the top menu as favorites, so you don't have to scroll through everything to keep finding it on a regular basis. The ones that we normally do. Because I always like to have GL. I always like to have trial balance. So now, I go up to my favorites. I've just moved some more in here. So anything that you use on a regular basis that you want to find quickly, I would suggest you start and put in your favorites. It makes life a lot faster and easier to find things. As for reports, your profit and losses are in your business overviews as well as your balance sheets. They give you a number of different options. You can do profit and loss comparisons with last year, last period. That's a year-to-date comparison. That shows you details of every account. So depending on what you're looking for, this is a profit and loss comparison, and this one says to last year, but I could do the last period instead and then change it to what my previous period was. If I change just the quarters, it will do it on a quarterly basis for me. So a lot of it is just menu driven up here, how you're going to manipulate your data. There's 101 million different variations of this. It just depends on what you're looking at and what kind of information you need with regards to sourcing and manipulating your data from your GL. Again, once you have something you really like, you can customize it. You can save that customization so that you do not have to recreate it again. So your profit and losses are in your business overviews, as well as your quarterly and balance sheets. Your AR, your accounts receivable, aged and summary. For those that are using accounts receivable, this is your listings that you'll want to, if you want a detail by customer, you want the detailed one. If you want to just know what the totals are, then you want the summary. This is the same thing for, you have the same thing for your payables.
Mhm.
You also have your check details. So if you want a listing of your checks, a lot of this stuff, T4 for contractors and stuff like that, a lot of people shy away from them, rather not go into T4s. These are your detailed reports. If you're going to be going into HST, you're going to notice that it kicks you out back to the reports section quite often. This will show you all of your HST information, your employee information, and will also be, as you use this, it expands with payroll information and on an awful lot of other reports in here that you may or you may need to do some of your payroll stuff. This stuff is class listing. Oh, there, and sure, I believe it's the next slide. Also, it gives us the journals. This is a basic rundown of anything that is a general or a expected financial report. You'll find it in the accounting section.
The next section is actually the payroll stuff.
So don't be afraid to go into these reports. It doesn't matter which one you choose. So I'll give you your deposit details. Again, they're date driven, right? And it shows you anything that was deposited this quarter, last quarter.
Go this year. Oh, there you go.
So it'll give you information on how to, depending on what you're looking for. So the report section is something that you have to take the time to actually scroll through and get to know. And the reports that to be able to get the information that you really, really are looking for. And now we're going to get into something very different. We're going to do projects, classes, and tags. So, projects. Let's talk about projects. This is mainly, at least what we see predominantly in some kind of production or contracting business versus any other type. Usually bigger formats, we're talking a project that could be a year or two in the process, not something that's going to be done like next week. It also attaches, so this allows you to set up your project, gives you the name, which customer, when your start and end date are, if you're in progress, if you're not started yet, completed or canceled, and then any other notes and details that you want. Sorry, that's really creative, but
Time to be creative.
this is very creative. I'm sorry. And then you can see. And then it creates your project. It tells you how much your income is coming in, how much the costs are coming in, because as you're going through and you're doing your entering, you're actually attaching, you're making sure that the project name is attached to anything that you're entering. Also will give you a profit and loss for your project. You can also attach hours if you wish. So your payroll could be attached to this as well.
In a very broad,
The broad, yeah.
yes.
So it would be time overall. It would be it's done through a timesheet rather than the payroll module. So you can edit the project if you need to. Say you didn't like the way I set that up, it could be edited. You can add other projects if you need to. And you can add to the projects whatever sort of invoice you want. So if you're receiving money, expenses that are associated to it, any estimates, there's your time. And I'm not sure, it will give me time. Okay, so it tells me who, how many hours, what it cost me.
And again, this doesn't actually have anything to do with the actual payroll itself.
No, it does not. It just collects the amount of time and how much the cost of the time is. So this is your add to. So projects is, like I said, it's usually, you're considered long-term, not short-term. I had somebody ask me about classes. I believe they asked me about classes. It's in here somewhere.
So what example of classes when you describe your expenses? So classes can be anything from a section of a department. Unfortunately, it's hard to describe exactly because we can't describe our own clients. So it's kind of it's harder that way because you want to keep
What's nice about classes is classes gives you the ability to segment your information into groups, departments, that sort of thing, and actually pull that information in financial statements. Okay, so if you want to know what team A versus team B is doing, or location A versus location B, this is where you would use your classes to be able to segment. And then you'd be able to pull that information as long as you're consistent with putting in your class information on the transactions that you're posting. It'll prompt you when you set up classes that it has a class module or a class space on transactions. But if you don't put it in, then the information is only as good as what you enter. So and the same thing goes for projects. If you aren't diligent in making sure that this is happening, the information is only as good as what was entered. So this is a nice thing about classes. You don't have to do a project. You can just segment it the way you want, and you can pull that information in financial statements by class. You can do the same thing with projects, but projects get a little bit more detail where they tell you exactly how much profit and loss is on each project. And then we have a thing called tags. I believe tags over here. So tags and tags groups. So what happens with tags is on an expense or an income or any other kind of transaction. And I'm just going to sort of sneak out of here for a minute because I want to show you where here you can do this. So tags sitting in this first bar information. Okay. And you can add whatever tag you want and manage them this way. So your tags are another way of being able to identify information without having to set up any classes or any projects. And you can get, there's like 300 tags that you can get or 40 groups that you can set up and then have 300 tags max. So these are just different ways of identifying your information that is available at QBO. And now I'd like to switch back to payroll. Okay, so payroll setup. Most of you guys, I presume, now that you're using QBO, have done this. We're just going to do a fast overview of it. So you do start up your payroll, and you add your ring the button over here. You add your new employees, and you put their name in, and then their email address, and then it'll ask you if you want to send an invite to Workforce, which gives them the ability to see their T4 slips, see their payroll slips, and that sort of information. Some people like having that automated service. It is not a bad idea. The date that you hired them is important because that information then, if you ever need to create a record of employment, you'll need that. Well, so if you send the Workforce information, it automatically will send the TD1, which is your tax withholding, to the employee to fill out. You can also enter it manually in step 2. And then step 3 is how this person is going to be paid. So this is your TD1s. And that is information that generates every year according to what the government has changed the rates to. How the payments go out, if you're weekly, bi-weekly, bi-monthly, monthly, when your next pay date is, you fill in all this information. How often you get paid, what the hourly rate is, or you can go salary as well. There's a drop down for salary. And creating your vacation policy. So they give you 2 options: payout every pay, or they give you an accrual, which means you basically bank your vacation time and then you take it as you need it. And it gives you, if you say that you're going to pay out, it asks you what the rate will be. Running a payroll. So when you actually have your list, there's a tab at the top right that says Run Payroll. and it'll ask you to list the people that you want on this payroll. You click those. You can use the little pencil icon on the far right side of that to go through each of the pays to make sure that you have captured all the information acceptably. And then once you're satisfied with that, you can, or if you need to leave, you can save for later. It will save your information. You can come back later. When you click run payroll, you have all that information that you entered previously in preview. But once you're satisfied with it, you submit your payroll, and then it's going to ask you if you want to print checks or, and then that's your opportunity if you need to for your system to print your pay stubs. You can be automated. You can do a direct deposit information that's set up when you do your employee setup, or you can do paper checks. And you have the option to toggle between both. Say that you need to create a second check, you can actually go to create a second check and create it as a paper check if you want to adjust for any payroll issues. And then you would finish your payroll. Now your source remittances. That goes, you go to the tax and you click on the payroll tax tab. And then it shows you, you select filing, and it shows you whether you want to, it gives you a listing and you want to remit either quarterly or monthly, depending on which one you are. And it should show you on the right hand side, there will be a little button that says PD7A. You click on that, and that is your, that is the remittance form that we are all used to seeing in paper. And from there, you can print and use that information to file your source remittances. Now some tips and tricks, and I know we're running out of time. Your navigation bar on the top right of your QBO. Your search eyeglass is wonderful. You can type in amounts in there, customer names in there. So if you're looking for a transaction, did I, don't I, did I post it, did I not post it, is it in my books? It will find it for you. There's also an advanced tab at the bottom of that. Your help menu gets you preset solutions. It also is your contact button if you have to talk to QBO direct for support. Notifications, and your gear icon is the one that provides you with all of your lists of modules in QBO. So this is what, if you happen to go in your search menu and you type something at the top, what it's going to look like and what information it will bring up. This is a note. Managing users. QBO has recently done some changes where it only allows you to have so many users on file. So if you've gotten a notification saying there's an error in the in the users, this is probably what it is. It's probably because you have an older user or too many for the subscription that you have. So you either have to slim down or move up a subscription to remove the error. This is something that we're just noticing is happening on a few of the files. Attaching documents. So on the bottom of most transactions, you have the opportunity to attach a document. If you're using an app, it does attach documents to. So if you're using the app that you take a picture of a receipt, it will add it to the expense at the bottom. So your picture will be added for you. But you can also add your own by just dropping and dragging into any transactions. So you have reference. It's a nice feature to have. I did include the shortcuts in case you're interested in using the Control-Alt buttons to be able to navigate to different parts of the program. For people that have made an error when you're entering customers or vendors, and it may be just a typing error, and you added it because you were in a hurry, you can actually combine two of them and merge them to clean up your accounts receivable listing or your accounts payable listing, as long as you make sure they're the same person, because you can't unmerge them.
You can merge, you can't unmerge.
Okay, so what we like to do, and this is a tip and trick that we love, if you left click on any of the modules in your navigation bar, it creates another window which you can drag onto another screen and actually use information simultaneously between two monitors. We do it often. If your QBO decides it's not going to function properly and you find it's very sluggish, recommended that you go to your history and you clear your browsing history, because sometimes that tends to slow QBO down. And we've found that when we do this on occasion, it corrects the issue. So we did this already, the review, the categorize, and the exclude, and we're into questions. Is there any other questions that we haven't talked about?
I think between you and Tanya, you certainly addressed all of the questions that were in the chat box at the same time. So we'll give it a moment just as we sort of run through. Certainly encouraging anybody, you're welcome to unmute yourself or simply type your question in the chat box or use the raise hand feature. Several ways. But in the meantime, Lola and Tanya, thank you so much. I know that this can be a daunting task for many of our members. And so I personally do not handle the books, and that's for a very good reason. But I know that it is always good to learn new tricks, particularly with this type of integrated technologies to help business as well.
Yeah, well, we've scratched the surface on a couple of things, but not everything. So, I mean, more in-depth uses for the software are there. It's just we're hoping to provide you with a basic knowledge and understanding so that you feel comfortable using it.
Most definitely. And for those who are curious, you know, I think, again, if you're looking for ways in which to synergize or add efficiency to your organization, then QuickBooks is a fairly decent platform for getting that all done. And I think you did an excellent example of scratching the surface today. So seeing that, I think what we'll do, and Elizabeth, I don't want to speak for Lola or Tanya, but may we share your presentation? Well, or at least the slideshow on the tips and tricks.
Sure.
I don't know which one that she's specifically looking for.
Elizabeth, if we send it to you as the slideshows for the page you just had on there, the one before the questions page, probably.
The one before the question page.
Probably the tips one.
That one.
One more.
Sorry.
The tip one.
But
we can definitely send you.
I was about to say, I don't think we need to fret.
You
We're definitely going to be sharing that directly after this discussion as well. So we'll send you a copy of those tips for you, Elizabeth King.
Thank you.
But apart from that, at this time, I would just like to invite our second pillar support partner, and that would be the Business Enterprise Center. And I believe we have Mike Scott online.
Hi, thanks, Cameron. Yeah, so just a quick note on the Business Enterprise Center. So we support entrepreneurs and small businesses throughout the region with free bilingual programs and consultation services at any stage of their business life cycle. So if you're looking for support with your business planning, startup, expansion, funding, or financing, please visit our website at northeastbec.com to request a consultation. I've also included my contact details in the chat box so you can contact me directly. And on behalf of the Reimagined Resiliency Financial Literacy Pillar partners, the Business Enterprise Center and the Venture Center, I'd like to sincerely thank Lola and Tanya for sharing their time and expertise with us today. Without a doubt, good bookkeeping is critical to the success of any business and can be a daunting task, as Cameron mentioned. Your presentation today surely demystified and simplified many of the processes using QuickBooks Online. And finally, I want to give a special thank you to everyone for attending this session. We hope that you feel more informed and empowered to effectively manage your books going forward. Thank you, everyone.
Well, thank you very much, Mike. And again, Lola, Tanya, thank you. And thanks for all for attending. We'll be following up with that information shortly. Take care now and have
Perfect. Thank you very much.
all right. Bye now.